You're listening to Real Crime, the Movie Sleuth podcast.
Oh, yes, smothered in onions.
Again.
Your favorite host of this show, Mr. Scott, come rolling up with a van full of chicks.
Woo-woo!
Yeah. I got the ladies here tonight. I felt like an Uber driver.
Just a smidge.
It was awesome. I had my, I guess, we've all ridden Uber. We've all done the Uber thing, and they all have the same thing. They have the phone on the jack, on the dash. And I'm like, roll up to Dana's house. I'm like, hey, yeah, what's up? All right, we gotta go. And we, of course, the exit we have to get off on here to get to Heather's mansion.
That sweet $1 billion home that
beautiful.
I live in.
Yeah, her Heather's estate.
Thank you.
The exit we had to get off on, of course, had like cop cars and shootings going on because it's just.
There's been like some crazy stuff going on. There's been cops everywhere,
the
past couple days. But the thing is, it's mainly the potholes that have been covered with the snow that's melted, and then the rain. Everybody's getting blown out all over the place.
Not to pimp these people, but I listen to like 9:50 a.m. every morning, like kind of on my way into the office.
Yeah,
and it seems like the last 2 weeks solid. Every morning, we have a hostage situation at a house in Taylor. We have a hostage situation today at a house like not too far from my house.
What?
In lovely Troy.
Really?
Every day it seems like there's some new like shut-in, like barricading himself. We have a barricade situation. That's what it is, a barricade situation. What? I'm hearing this more and more. It seems like it's really strange. Maybe potholes are causing that because it's starting to drive me insane also, and I'm ready to start going nuts also because, like every day now it's just some kunk, kunk.
You can't drive anywhere safely in Michigan right now.
It's the worst,
horrible.
Man. It's
horrible.
The worst. It's terrible.
Horrible.
But we made it.
We made it.
Here.
I told you I had a plan. I made the plan work. We got here. Van full of chicks.
But wait.
To talk about some really interesting stuff. We have the lovely Dana in studio tonight. She's here.
I don't know how lovely I am, but how's it going?
Oh, she's a babe.
Oh, you're lovely.
She's
No,
a
I am
babe.
not.
We got Miss H in the corner.
What up?
Hanging out. And the loveliest woman in the room.
I'm so fucking hot tonight.
Yeah. You look good. You
That's
look
the
good,
truth.
man.
It was so damp outside.
Did you get a haircut?
What?
Oh, you got a haircut.
Did you get a haircut?
It is.
Well, no, that was just I shaved my pubes.
Jesus.
And
Oh my God.
Keeping it classy.
That went down the toilet real fucking fast.
Well, enough rain here. Everything's going down the toilet. We have. We're just like in the news today.
Yeah.
We're getting some rain. I think it finally stopped kind of raining, but it's been raining for like the last 2 days here.
Yeah.
So we went from like snow everywhere, and over a day and a half, it's like green, lush forests
it's
everywhere now.
brownish.
Yeah, mud everywhere. It's terrible. But that made Chris's job very difficult this week because he had to go out on the street and tear people's heads off again to get the news. What did you get this week, Chris?
Well, so first thing, let's mention the Flint Institute of Arts. We always mention them every week on here. They have a weekly film series. Definitely check that out.
We got to get out there.
I know. Every week we say the same thing.
I know, but it's been so cruddy.
Yeah,
that we
I
can't
know,
just get out there.
And then we're not going to make it out there now. We'll end up falling into a crater.
Right.
And then also make sure to check out projectorscreen.com.
If you don't check that out, you're a piece of shit.
Yes.
God, I'm sorry. Maybe you're not, but you could be.
So in the news today, the Joker spinoff, which is reportedly going to star Joaquin Phoenix as the Joker, is they're saying it's set for a May shoot date. That actually they're further along in getting this thing ready to shoot. So that's pretty cool. Black Panther, as much as I love Black Panther, this is kind of strange, but it's rated as the best movie ever by Rotten Tomatoes.
Don't
Come
they have
on.
a different best movie ever, like every week?
Yeah.
But it's a Marvel movie. I mean, it was good.
Yeah.
It's a really good movie. But
Is it your favorite Marvel movie, though?
But like the last Marvel movie, they said that too.
Yeah, it's actually been on Rotten Tomatoes as the best movie ever. Like, come on, people.
That's usually the production studio saying they always try to push the envelope or up the ante.
Yeah.
Like, well, this is the greatest film we've ever done. No, this is the greatest film we've ever done. Okay, well, great.
Yeah.
Thanks, Garty. Appreciate that,
Yeah.
guys.
In other Black Panther news, it actually surpassed The Last Jedi's opening weekend, which is pretty shocking. It made over $242 million over President's Day
Black Panther.
weekend.
Black
yeah.
Panther.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not that surprised, honestly.
Well, there was the hype machine behind this. I think there's a lot of stuff behind this film, and I
Yeah.
think a lot of people good for those guys. Great.
There's cultural relevance behind
Yeah.
the release
Okay,
of this
all
movie.
right, yeah.
Reportedly, and this has been shot down by a couple of sites, but other sites are reporting it, including us, the Duffer Brothers are purportedly leaving Stranger Things after season 3 to go on and make movies. And they also have a contract to do 2 other shows for Netflix. There's kind of different things that are being said about this right now.
Well, they must be broke.
Yeah,
Jeez.
really.
I guess season 3 didn't do as well as I thought, huh?
Season 2?
Season
Oh,
2.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But, well, we know what
I
you
think
meant.
season 2 did great. Didn't it?
Did it?
Yeah,
Like
it was-
it did.
Stranger Things.
Yeah, it was good.
I mean, I'm wondering, like, what was the popularity?
It was one of the most popular seasons ever on Netflix.
Yeah,
I mean, it was
people-
huge. Yeah, yeah.
That was crazy.
So, also, Walking Dead news. Apparently, Lauren Cohan is not happy with the way The Walking Dead is going, and she has not signed a contract yet to return for season 9. But she has signed on for a lead role in an ABC pilot that would be premiering at the same time as The Walking Dead season 9. So,
Why didn't she say that in like season 3?
yeah, so she might not be coming back. And then,
she wasn't in there.
yeah, she wasn't on for the first couple.
Sorry, yeah, you're right.
And then other news, some It sequel news. Supposedly Jessica Chastain is in talks to play the female role in the It sequel.
Like the adult?
Yes.
I can't-
Yes.
I
I always
don't
forget her
remember that.
name.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, she's the one that slept with all the boys in the book.
Hot. Keep talking about that.
That's
Yeah.
pretty cool, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In new releases this week, we have the Death Wish remake starring Bruce Willis.
Oh, I'm excited about those.
It'll be cool, maybe.
It's gonna be so awesome.
Charlie Bronson.
I know.
Yep. And then also Red Sparrow is being released this week. This is the one starring Jennifer Lawrence as a Russian spy, which we gave a pretty good review to it. We saw it about a week and a half ago. So,
I'm just gonna hum through all this. Keep going.
moving out of the news,
Wait, is there an embargo on that? Because
Red Sparrow, our review is already on the front page.
Oh, okay. I didn't
Yeah.
even see it. Shit.
Yep. Get to reading,
I
bitch.
know. I know. Man, it's fucking babasketball conferences right now. I'm not.
The Olympics are on. Are you crazy?
With
Fuck
Heather,
the
it's always
Olympics.
about the balls.
Yeah.
Always about the balls. All she ever does is pay
I
attention to the balls.
watched men's curling.
I thought I thought about you the other morning because I finished my my 45-minute death metal session on the elliptical.
Yeah.
And
I
your
was-
balls were moving.
Like, dude, they were like
and you're
down
like,
to my
Heather loves the ball.
If you're as old, if you're as old as me, they're like bumping like
Yeah.
just clock weights down there.
Jesus.
But we have a basketball court where I work out at too, and I'm like, oh, I was walking back covered in sweat. I'm like, oh, I can use a little bit. So I started playing basketball, and I'm like, oh, I wonder if this is what Heather does on her off time.
Nope.
You don't play, you just watch.
I just watch. I can't play anymore.
Well, I'll videotape myself playing, and I'll send it to you, and then you can watch
Yeah.
that
and
too.
post it on like X Hamster.
Oh my god.
So suggested viewings this week.
Yeah.
I actually watched Everything Sucks on Netflix, and I tell you what, it is probably the best like dramedy, like teenage show I've seen in decades.
Really?
The show is amazing. It's 22-minute episodes, takes place in 1996.
Yeah, we saw a trailer for
So
that.
it's like this really cool,
The
like
1990s, you said?
Yeah, it takes
Yeah.
place
Amber's
in
watching that right
takes
now.
place in 1996. It's about a freshman kid who's a filmmaker. He's an amateur filmmaker, and basically traces his emotional transformation throughout his freshman year. You know, he falls in love, and he's
Yeah.
making a movie and all that stuff. It's really, really good. So,
right.
it's definitely one that I suggest that everybody watches, especially if you were kind of growing up during that era. It's great.
Well, yeah,
it's really good.
I heard some of the soundtrack as Amber was watching it, like in the other room, and I'm like, I even said to her, I'm like, what the hell is this, like the '90s like show? And she's
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's all about the '90s. So
Yeah.
it seems pretty interesting.
All right.
Hedda,
Heather,
What? Oh, my suggested
basketball.
viewing-
Move on.
Yeah. Congratulations, MSU. They won tonight. They're
Did they?
probably going to be a number one seed in the NCAA tournament. Anyways, okay. Fuck you. All right,
Sports.
so I watched The Ritual.
I heard good things about this.
Dude, The Ritual is fucking cool. It's really neat. It's a slow burn, so if you get bored easily, shame on you. But it's they don't show a whole lot of stuff, which makes it even more frightening. I would watch
Yeah.
it.
That's the best kind of horror.
Right. It's actually like there was a few parts where I was like, It's really suspenseful. Like the music is really good.
Yeah.
It makes you feel like I was becoming uncomfortable watching some scenes because I knew something was going to happen. Just, the cues and all that. But, yeah, it was really good. I'm glad I watched all of it.
I'm going to check it out later
I've been hearing a
tonight.
lot
Yeah,
of great
it's
things
really good.
about that too.
Watch it.
Miss Dana.
Well, I got a couple of things. As far as TV goes, American Dad is back. It has a new season just started.
Ooh.
And I don't know how everybody feels about Seth MacFarlane. It doesn't matter. American Dad is his best show in my opinion, and it's been going. I think it's in its 12th or 13th season now.
It's been on a
Oh,
while.
wow.
It's been on a long time, and it's still as funny as ever. They're still coming up with new situations. It's on Mondays at 10 o'clock on TBS now, so it's not on Fox anymore.
Oh.
But yeah, it's fantastic. They're still doing new episodes, and it's wonderful. Still as funny as ever. And as far
Hell
as
yeah.
movies go, get your butts out and see Early Man. The new
All
Aardman
right.
Aardman Animations is
Yeah.
back. Anything that Nick Park touches is just hilarious and ridiculous, and I just love it.
I love the cast for that, too.
Eddie Redmayne is in
Mm-hmm.
it, and Nick Park himself actually voices a very, I guess, major character, but he's a wild boar that acts like a dog. So like he makes little dog noises, and it's pretty funny. But yeah, so if you
Outstanding.
love Nick Park, if you liked Wallace and Gromit or Chicken Run, or The Pirates, any of that stuff, you're gonna love Early Man. It's great, and it's a great family film. So it's rated PG, but there's really nothing terribly objectionable in it. It's just there's a lot of slapstick because it's typical.
I need to
Aardman.
watch more stuff like that.
Oh,
It's
British.
fantastic.
Go home, you're drunk.
Go home, you're drunk.
All right, I guess. So here's my tip, my thing. First thing for the listening audience, do this. If you were born, no, let's not do that. Go to YouTube,
you were born at all.
type in Atari documentary,
Oh.
and watch about 20 things below that. It'll
What?
be about a week's worth of watching, but it'll be great. The reason I'm saying that is I completely, since our last show, we talked about, what was the last show? Was it 80s films we were talking about?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I totally fell down the rabbit hole after watching Raiders of the Lost Ark. Of course, I watched Temple of Doom, and I watched The Last Crusade after that, too. But that sent me spiraling down the 80s nostalgia rabbit hole. And the most nostalgic thing that I could do in my age group, I guess, is totally fall down the rabbit hole of Atari gaming.
Oh, here it goes.
The 2600. Yeah, and you guys have been seeing all the Facebook bullshit going on with me.
It's
so
awesome. It's beautiful. It's
Yeah.
it's
I had to
beautiful.
put you on ignore. It was like worse than Trump shit. What the fuck?
Oh, dang.
So what's
Oh.
happened is there are some really, really great documentaries. There's some really fun stuff I've been watching, just like off the cuff documentaries that some of the people that worked there made. But there are 3 documentaries that you can watch if you're interested in arcade gaming. And there's the thing I guess a lot of this stuff popped up with me because there's been some really big news, and this kind of ties in with the show here a bit. There's been some really big news as of late in the arcade gaming scene, I guess. The Twin Galaxies people, who are kind of like the custodians of all the world gaming records, like arcade, home gaming, you name it, they pretty much have it. There's been quite an uproar or upset recently with some of like the old school guys. Like we're talking like there's Todd Rogers, Billy Mitchell, who are both in, and there's 3 documentaries I'm going to say. There's Man vs. Snake, which is my personal favorite. It's about the game Nibbler. which it's a super cool
I got
documentary.
a snake,
Okay.
Ming.
It's a
Thus
super cool
tying it into
documentary.
our show.
Yeah, totally. And then there's Chasing Ghosts, which is about the Pac-Man record.
Oh.
And then there's King of Kong, which is also about the Donkey Kong record. And there's a lot more to it. There's a lot to it. But those 3 documentaries, if you're into like classic gaming, man, they're a riot. And there's some serious villains. It's so fun to watch these guys. There's a lot of stuff being said about these things. But the reason I said that is these people that were the focus of, well, except for the Man versus Snake thing, the other 2 films, some of the focal people, the people there, they're being outed now. There's a lot of ways you can prove your scores, blah, blah, blah. But a lot of these things they're bubbling up now with technology and saying, no, that score you did was not real. And we can prove it now.
What?
So there's some really serious shit going down. It's
How
heavy.
can they prove that through
I
a
know.
ROM-based game, though?
Well, some of the scores that were back in the day, if you remember like Activision, like you
Yeah,
remember this, Chris,
yeah.
like Activision, like you played Pitfall. All you had to do with that, if you wanted to like send a score to Activision, you just take a picture of the TV set. Like if you beat Pitfall, you made 20 minutes without dying.
Yeah.
You can get your patch. I had one, right? So like back in those days, these guys would play like a 1,000,000-point score game of Donkey Kong. They supposedly had to videotape it.
Oh,
Right.
Yeah.
And again, there's a lot of stuff. I don't want to go into it, but they're basically looking at some of this stuff going, that tape has been edited. It's been cut up.
Oh shit.
And again, there's a lot of stuff that I've been really diving into this stuff. And
Right, yeah.
I could go all night talking about this. But I found it immensely interesting. And it's kind of set me back down the rabbit hole of Atari again. Going, God, those games ruled. So yeah, I uprooted my old system. Got it run. It still fucking works.
Wow.
It's a 30, 40-year-old machine. It still works great. Found all the old games. There's been some serious activity with that, finding games. And I have like 60, 70 games now to play. And I've just been sitting there staring at this little glass TV set in the living room, driving Amber nuts. So, okay, my point being is those are some 3 really great documentaries. And there is a plethora, if this is a topic you'd like to dive back into for nostalgia purposes, maybe. There's a ton of stuff on YouTube you can watch. But I've had a lot of fun learning about the old days of Atari and how much these guys partied
Yeah.
and the pot these guys smoked. It's so much fun to watch. And when that was your childhood, it's great to come back as an older person and go, well, how did all this stuff actually happen?
Yeah.
Right? So
Now you can actually understand.
Well, there's
it.
nostalgia and history behind
there's
all
so
of
much
this.
history. The history is so friggin' fascinating, So I've been having a lot of fun just kind of diving into this. But those 3, Chasing Ghosts, King of Kong, and Man versus Snake, I watched all those documentaries twice in the last couple weeks, and they're just a lot of fun to watch.
Sweet.
Yeah, so check those out. You guys will really
Nice.
enjoy it. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
So we're here tonight.
Here's tonight.
Episode number 74.
Oh my god.
We got a really, really...
Really? Wow. I haven't been on this show since episode 42.
Wow.
Holy
Really?
shit.
Yes. I remember it because it was 42.
42.
Yeah.
It's the only reason I remember that.
Tonight's topic.
Tonight's topic is
Animation.
another fun one.
Yes.
Does somebody have a drum roll sound? Anything?
No.
No.
Nope.
I'll take that.
Okay.
Oh. You guys are disgusting.
Oh, my.
Favorite
Animated movies.
Yeah, animated films.
Woo!
Yeah, movies. Yeah. Wow.
Which is
It's a
really
it's a
fun.
wide
It's a
spectrum.
It's gonna
huge
be
topic.
like the '80s one, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there's
Yeah.
So many
much.
good. There's so many good animated films.
Yeah.
Now hold on. Are we talking like straight up just hand drawn animated, or can we do like both?
I would
think
say
both.
anything goes.
I
my
think
thing
anything
covered.
goes.
My thing covered all that stuff.
There,
Yeah.
Yeah,
there's
I mean-
so much out there, and there's so many different styles of animation, and there's excellent short films. There's excellent full-length features.
Well, I kept my thing to like full lengths.
Okay.
God,
Yeah,
I could
well,
talk
I
about
did
everything,
too.
but yeah, we should probably stick to just the one.
This is the reason we have Dana here tonight because
Yeah,
this is
she can rein
the-
us in.
This
This
is
is
the
my-
expert. So,
This
yeah,
is
you know
my
what?
jam.
Why don't you lead us off, Dana? Throw something out there.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, the thing that I like to write about the most, and the stuff that no one ever talks about, which is why I like to write about it, is the older European animation. I mean,
Okay.
everybody likes anime. I really don't like anime. You can all shoot me now.
No.
Oh, whatever.
But I don't care for anime. I and a lot of the Western animated full-length features that were put out, especially like in the 70s and 80s, were really just bizarre shit. I mean, if you've seen Martin Rosen's Watership Down is a good place to start because a lot of people have probably seen it.
Yeah.
And it's going from there. I mean, it just gets weirder and weirder and weirder.
And that one's a really hard watch too.
It's an extremely hard watch. It's so violent, and I first saw that movie when I was about 4.
Oh.
Yeah, and it explains a lot, I'm sure. But
So that's what happened.
that's what happened to me. Yeah, we had a neighbor that had it on a videotape, and they made the classic mistake. Oh, this is a nice animated movie about bunnies. Let's put it on for the kid that we're babysitting that we don't really want to watch.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm sitting there watching this movie, and these rabbits are tearing each other apart. And I'm just going, whoa.
This is heavy.
But it affected me in the sense that I never forgot it. And there were a lot of movies like that I saw when I was a kid that stuck with me. And just years later, I would find myself just having pictures in my mind of these films and going, was that real or did I hallucinate?
Yeah, were you dreaming?
And, you know, and I have so many examples. One of my favorite movies is from 1971, and it was done by UPA, which did Mr. Magoo and stuff like that. But they made this film based on Don Marquis' Archie and Mehitabel stories, and it's called Shinbone Alley.
Shinbone Alley.
Shinbone Alley.
Right.
It's a musical
Oh.
about a cockroach who is in love with a cat.
Aww.
Oh my god.
But it's not cute.
Oh
It's okay.
I can't imagine.
Well, he's not. He's a cockroach. But he was a poet who committed suicide and became a cockroach.
Oh, that's pretty cool though.
That is.
And then he
People
spends
were high.
yeah. Well, and then he spends half of the film trying to kill himself because he
because
tries to kill himself again because he can't. He's
stand being
an
a
utter
cockroach?
failure as a cockroach.
Oh,
Right.
no.
So he's just, but it's a fantastic movie, and yes, it's a musical. So
How do you
he's
feel at
like,
being a cockroach?
So he's like, I'm gonna go and kill myself. All right, cool.
something like that.
Oh,
There's
nice.
actually a really inspired scene in that movie where he's trying to get himself killed by jumping in the way of pool balls. You know, when someone's playing
Right,
billiards
right.
and like, so he's like, I'm gonna see if he can sink this in the corner pocket, and he goes and runs in the pocket, and the guy misses, and he's like, damn it.
Aww. And this is animated?
This is animated.
Oh, wow.
That's not seeing
Well-
it though. That's a really cool, dark
Yeah.
comedy type thing though.
That's
It's
the
neat.
cool thing about it, though, is that that's something you can't do with a live action film.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
if you wanted to do it, it would have to be like all CGI,
Yes,
Right.
or all visual effects. I
Or
think
a very
some of this-
elaborate set.
it's really cool with the animated films because there are things like bunnies killing each other that you're not really going to see in a regular film, and I think that's a special part about animated
Well,
films.
it opens up a whole new world of
It opens a
creativity.
whole new
Yeah.
world, new universes, different things that you're
Yeah.
going to see that you might not ever be able to experience, and the time and the artistry that goes
Yeah.
into creating
Yeah.
that stuff by hand. Even though I know like CGI has taken over a lot of it now,
Yeah.
but even that takes a lot
Yes.
of
I think it's
skill.
still a lot of work.
CGI is hard work, and anybody who says that 2D animation is more work than CGI has never done CGI.
Really.
So I mean, it's a different kind of work.
Sure.
But it's just as much.
Well, it's the
just
next
as much effort
frontier.
goes into it.
Really.
Yeah.
I mean,
It
it's been
is.
the next frontier for a long time.
And and when it's done really well, like say Pixar. I hate to drag that out, but I love Pixar.
Well, I think a lot of people love Pixar because they put out things that are like a welcome addition for families to watch together for the most part.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
Yes. But beyond that, I mean, they're good storytellers.
Yeah.
The best thing about Pixar is you're going to have characters that you care about. You're going to have a story that is just complex enough, where you're not really sure where they're going to take it.
Yeah.
Well,
Like
you were
Wall-E.
talking about.
Oh, man.
What's that?
I said like Wall-E.
Yeah,
saw that.
I love that movie.
What? You've
I never
never
saw
seen
it.
You've got to see
Wall-E?
Wall-E.
Oh,
It's
dude.
great.
Dude,
great.
I didn't say this coming out of the gate here. This is like one of my real weak spots. I mean, I have a pretty good list of stuff that I have
Yeah.
to work on this shit to get it together.
Oh man, Wall-E.
There's a lot I
Wall-E is
haven't
gonna make you. You're gonna fucking holy shit. Wall-E is gonna change the way you look at stuff.
Have you seen Up?
Oh God, yeah. We've talked about Up on
Yeah,
here.
I mean,
my God.
Wall-E
Fucking
has some of the
depressing
same
thing ever.
emotional context like Up does.
Let's
I
move
think
to Up
Wally's better.
Because so much
Yeah.
of it is nonverbal.
Yeah.
It's all told in the characters' physical, just their expressions, their
I've seen some,
movements,
like,
everything.
promos.
It's just fantastic. I mean, that the scene in Up, within the first 10 minutes, you're like on the ground crying.
I think we've put
Like a
that, like,
bitch.
that's made some list here.
Yeah,
Of, like,
see, I'm like the only one.
what?
Who didn't cry?
Yeah, no, not at all.
Wow.
Yeah,
Ooh.
I know.
They still make you?
Yeah,
Jeez.
dude, I'm hard. I don't know. Seriously, I'm just been desensitized. I
Amber put that
suppose.
on. She's like, you got to watch Up. It's the most amazing thing ever.
See, I thought Up was good, but I thought Wally was way better.
I have to
I-
see Wally now.
I think in terms of storytelling, I think Wally is better. But in terms of just the first half of Up, I would say is more emotionally relevant.
Sure,
But then
I can agree to that for
all
sure.
the way through Wally is the storytelling, I think, is a little bit more cohesive.
We have family over all the time for holidays, and we've got the theater down here. So we're like, oh, it was like Christmas or Thanksgiving or something. And my mom's like, oh, let's watch a family movie. I'm like, okay, let's watch. We all haven't seen Up. I've not seen it yet. I had just gotten the Blu-ray, and I put it on. And within
no.
like 10 minutes, everybody in the basement sobbing. And my mom's sitting there going like,
What did
what
you do?
did you do?
What did you put on for that?
It's those first 10 minutes. I mean,
Should have gone with Watership Down, Chris.
Yeah.
Everybody I talk to about Up, it is that same
Yeah.
thing. It's however you respond to it.
You
those
don't forget
first
that
10
scene.
minutes.
No, for sure.
And to me, it just I think about just with just with family stuff that's happened in the last couple of years with me. That really hits home because I'm like, we're talking about a lifetime being compressed into 10 minutes. And when you look at it that way, like, and they didn't make light of it at all.
No.
It was just a compressed
Yeah,
idea.
I really like that they did
Yeah.
that.
But you take that in your mind and go, well, that's a lifetime, man.
Yeah.
And we all have family. We all have people around us, and we've watched that happen over decades.
Yeah.
That's what makes it so powerful. I
Yeah.
think. Just that first 10 minutes of that. And it's the whole thing is great, but those first 10 minutes,
Yeah.
somebody just was having a bad week at the office there. I
Right.
think.
They were like,
It's
take this shit. I'm
Yeah.
gonna draw this.
I'm gonna just
this
take
is
this
how it's
out.
gonna go. Yeah, someone had to actually like write that out in the screenplay and be like, this is how this is gonna go.
Yeah, this is how this is going to play out. You guys ready? Go to work.
I mean, it is heavy. I'm not
Oh,
not downplaying
I
with her.
know.
I just didn't
Dana, you
feel
said
bad.
you were talking about Watership Down, and I had something similar happen to me with an animated movie. My parents, it's a cartoon. He can watch that. What's the big deal? And they were watching it with me, and then
Please tell me it was heavy metal.
damn right it was. Damn right it was.
All right.
No, it's heavy metal. Well, Scott likes our kid likes heavy metal. He likes
Yeah.
cartoons. Match made in heaven.
He
Yeah.
likes boobies
Oh my
too.
Yeah,
Let's-
some animated boobies.
Ralph
Woo-wee.
Bakshi right up at that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Still
Whoops.
a great thing to watch though.
Oh no, heavy metal's awesome.
It is
Yeah.
a fantastic movie. Anything Ralph Bakshi does, though.
Yeah, that's
He's- He's still making good
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, that's fantastic. But that was one of those ones, the same idea. It cracks me up. They're like, "Oh my God, turn that thing off!" And I had to watch it a couple years later when I was mature enough to watch it. Right?
So basically, you were 6. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm still 6. Are you
That's
kidding
when
me?
you completely matured.
Yeah, completely mature.
Grew a beard.
Grew a beard.
Ralph Bakshi made
I was
me
like
grow a
Willie
beard.
Nelson when I was like 6 years old. Well, yeah, heavy metal was super cool. I love going back to that and just watching the original.
Yeah.
And just it looks so good at the time. It still
it
holds
still
up.
looks
It still
really
looks
good.
good.
Yeah, it holds up. It was such a fantastic thing to watch, and that's one of my it just totally made me think about that, Dana, when you said that, because it was really threw everybody for a curveball, because at that time. Yeah, it's a cartoon. Cartoons are
Yeah.
family. They're wholesome.
Cartoons are for children.
No, there's a lot of dark shit
Fritz
out
the
there.
cat.
Yeah, Fritz the cat. And to speak another Bakshi, great.
Yeah. So I'm going to throw one out there. I've
Yeah.
got a small list because I don't watch a lot of animated films, but
You're like me.
I think my favorite animated film of all time, and Dana is going to agree with me on this one too, The Iron Giant.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah,
That-
I got that on my list too.
Yes. Brad Bird's magnum opus. I love that.
Well, I
Yeah.
always say that's Vin Diesel's best role.
Oh,
Because he like barely
he only
talks.
he only has to say one word.
Or whatever. That's all he did.
Superman.
Vin Diesel's best role.
He just has to say Superman.
No,
That's
at
it.
the end he says, he says, no, you stay or whatever.
No following.
Yeah, I was like,
Calls back to earlier in the movie.
see, that got me, but like
stay,
watching
no
two people
following.
die in 10 minutes was,
Oh,
you know,
God.
like, but an Iron Giant telling this little boy to no
Yeah.
follow, I was like, oh my God.
I mean, that's one of the few that I've really sat down and watched, and I love that. It was super
That's
cool.
fantastic.
It really stuck with me.
There's, it's got a similar message to it, like E.T. in a way.
Yeah.
Being comes from outer space, blah 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 blah. But I like all of the Red Scare stuff
Yeah.
in it too. The relationship between the boy and the giant, how it kind of just blooms.
Yeah.
And then he's gone.
Yeah.
And he has to now at the end adapt to life without his friend. I just think it's a really strong story.
Yeah.
Well, and not only that, but I mean, you have this little 9-year-old kid who is essentially having to take on this adult role and teaching the giant about life and
Right.
death and what does it mean to
And,
die.
what
and
he
what
knows
does it mean?
up until that point, because he's so young.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and he's trying to impart wisdom when trying to figure out how much wisdom he actually has, and it's a complex character. The kid is such a complex character. I love it.
What is his name again?
Hogarth.
Hogarth, that's right.
Hogarth.
Hogarth.
They even make
Stay.
they even make fun of it in the movie. The Red Scare guy. He's like, "What kind of a name is Hogarth?"
Oh yeah, that's right. Isn't that when he's like at the house?
Yeah, and he's trying to get with the mom.
Yeah.
and just to get closer to the kid, find out more about the giant. And the
This-
kid's like,
This is one of those animated films that when you're watching it, it doesn't really feel like you're watching an animated movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it just feels like a good movie with a good message.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and every time I watch it, I just get sucked into it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And I think really that's what I think a good animated movie does. One of two things: it either absolutely makes you aware of the art, or it makes you feel like you're not watching animation at all.
Right. That's
There's
what a
kinda
good
no
movie
middle.
should do.
And if it's a movie like say Shinbound Alley, for example, which is really stylized, you notice the art.
Mm-hmm.
You notice the art. It's part of what makes the movie good. But then you have something like Kubo and the Two Strings.
Oh, that was good.
That movie is just incredible. And when you're watching it, it just, again, you don't feel like you're watching something that was put together with stop motion.
Mm-hmm.
It just, it's an incredible
Well,
film.
I mean, I guess from my experience with that, you just kind of fall into that world. You forget where you're at,
Yeah.
which is cool.
Yeah.
I mean, you're truly disconnecting for a short amount of time
Right.
into something totally foreign that doesn't really exist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that idea a lot.
Yeah.
That's really cool. What about you, Heather?
See, this is why I was asking this question earlier, and so I'm younger than you guys, so sorry, but I think my favorite animated film is Who Framed Roger Rabbit,
Oh, that's a great movie.
and I know that that's like the best of both worlds,
yeah, it's
you know.
half and half. Yeah.
But as a kid, honestly, as a kid, I watched more of like I watched Looney Tunes a lot, but I watched more movies as a kid than I did like cartoons and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So like my favorite movies as a kid were like Jaws and E.T. and growing up in the 90s, I had Ninja Turtles and Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters is my all-time favorite movie ever.
It should be.
The first one, right.
Fantastic
It's a
movie.
great movie. But I watched Who Framed Roger Rabbit because of the cartoons.
And you had a bit of animation mixture in
Yeah.
Ghostbusters too. Like, that
So-
makes sense. Yeah.
I think Who Framed Roger Rabbit it was a really good example of, well, just technology at the
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
You know, it's incredibly looking. Like even God, do we have it on Blu-ray? Anyways, I watched it recently, and I
Yeah.
was like, man, this movie still looks awesome. And
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
him holding Roger, like you can't tell that it's
Yeah.
just him holding nothing, and then
Yeah.
they had to draw him into his hand, and
Yeah.
like thinking about that stuff now makes the movie even better. But as a kid, I was just like, oh, look at the toxic
Yeah.
waste and the little sneaker and he squeaks and,
Well, and I'll tell you this: what Who Framed Roger Rabbit did for me was it gave me a lot more. I already respected him as an actor, but it gave me a ton more respect for Bob Hoskins.
Oh, yeah,
as an
man.
actor, because so much of what made that movie great was was how interactive he was with
Yeah.
something that wasn't there.
Exactly.
And
And, like,
just how real he made it
Yeah.
seem.
Yeah. You know, going down that same pathway, you mentioned that Pete's Dragon.
oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Same idea.
Yeah.
Now that one looks a little bit. You watch that; it's a little bit dated looking.
Yeah.
Well,
But it's
they
still pretty
remade
awesome.
they remade Pete's Dragon. It was one of those
I'm talking about the
live action
1970
weird ones that they remade.
Yeah.
And I didn't see the remake, but yeah, I love
The 77 version's what I'm
I
talking
loved
about.
The
Yeah.
original version.
Yeah, that was one of the. I mean, I had that book and everything when I was a kid. I mean, I loved Pete's Dragon, and it's the same. You know, the mixture, right?
Yeah.
So much fun. God, this is like taking me down.
Are
That's
we
what I was
gonna-
afraid of with this.
Are we going to include claymation as well?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, well,
That counts.
so see, like I said earlier, I didn't really watch
Yeah.
a whole lot of animated film. I was a Disney kid, of course, but that was about it. But I loved Clash of the Titans.
Yeah, you said that, and that was the first thing I thought was Clash of the original one.
I still love that movie.
Oh, dude, that's so crazy looking.
Like that stuff, like that's the kind of stuff that I was mostly attracted to as a child, though.
Medusa's Lair, I could watch that in repeat. Over.
Yeah.
And the use. We may have mentioned that before on the show here. Clash of the Titans, that original one. I forgot what year that was. Like 80?
82.
82, yeah.
All right. The use of blood in that, and the way, especially the way it looked with Medusa's, like in Medusa's Lair, there were some blood elements they used, and it almost came out like jelly. It was like so thick and gooey, and that always kind of like stuck with me. Like you're talking about those, we've talked about that a lot, Dana, like on here, is like these impressions you get from films that
Yeah.
kind of stick with you your whole life.
Yeah.
And it gets to a point like where you're like, is that really? And you have to go back and watch it again to
Right.
reaffirm. And that's
to
one
be
of those
like,
things.
I did see that, right?
Yeah, and that's
Okay.
like that Medusa's Lair thing in Clash of the Titans is one of those, like the use of blood they used. Because I think it was just claymation blood too.
Oh yeah, probably it was probably just fucking
Or it was
Play-Doh.
or it was jelly. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah,
they,
like
took
maybe
some
they did
jelly.
use jelly.
But that's one of those things that sticks in my head too, and that's like the perfect example of this stuff. Incredible claymation work.
Yeah.
You never see anything. We talked about the remake on that too, which was just hysterical.
Yeah, it
compared to
was.
the it was absolutely like, how could you even try to do that justice?
I
First
know.
off, oh, it's campy. Fuck you. So what? It's awesome. That
The
looked
first
so good.
one
Nothing
was
looked
campy
like it.
because it was fucking 80s.
Yeah, and nothing looked like it.
it
Nothing
didn't
will ever look
mean
like
to
that.
be campy. It
No,
was just
And it came out something. It's total
Limited.
classic. I have a copy of that at home. I'll watch it every couple of months. I might
Yeah.
get thrown in the DVD player, or I'm sorry, the Blu-ray player.
there we go.
Oh, boy.
Elite.
I'm gonna get out of the stop motion stuff.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, before you do that,
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to mention.
Shut up, Chris.
I do
Dana.
want to mention another claymation. If you
Yeah.
want to stay where claymation is, I'm sure everyone remembers Will Vinton, who created the California Raisins
Oh,
and
yeah,
all that
yeah.
Yeah,
stuff. I think his best work was he did a full-length feature called The Adventures of Mark Twain.
Oh.
And it is bizarre as hell.
It's
I saw
all
that.
claymation?
Have you seen that? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's claymation and it's fantastic. And there's particular, if you see nothing else from this movie, go on YouTube and look up the Mysterious Stranger section because
Okay.
it is creepy as hell. And it's fucking fantastic.
Is it more creepy because it's claymation and stop motion, or is it?
It's
was it
creepy
just-
because it's creepy. It's just a really
Okay.
creepy thing, and the whole film was fantastic. And it goes through a lot of Mark Twain's work and stuff with there's
Yeah.
a framing device about Mark Twain he's essentially trying to find Halley's Comet so that he can die on Halley's Comet because he was born on the day that Halley's Comet came through, and he wanted to die on the same day and all this. So there's like a framing device around that, and then they keep going through all these like weird dimensions and stuff, and they end up
Say what?
it's just a bizarre movie.
It's called The Adventures of Mark Twain.
Yeah, The Adventures
Okay.
of Mark Twain, and it's
Yeah,
it's
I've
all-
seen
When
that.
was it made?
This was golly, I'm not even sure what year
I
that was
thought
made.
wasn't it in the 80s?
It was in the 80s, but I'm
Okay.
not sure what year.
'Cause I remember
Just to-
seeing it on HBO.
Because Vinton's stuff was all 80s. He did all.
Sounds like it was the true life story of Mark Twain.
Could have been. Who knows?
Could have been. I mean, since we're kind of on this stop motion stuff, I think we probably should mention The Nightmare Before Christmas too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great film. One thing that bothers me about that movie.
Get out.
Okay. Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
No. The the man who's really responsible for the look in that movie is a guy named Paul Berry.
Okay.
And Paul Berry is, well, he's dead now, but he kind of came up with that seminal, that look that the characters have.
Okay.
That Tim Burton kind of co-opted after Barry died. But there is a short film that Barry made in '91, I want to say, and it's stop motion, and it's a horror short called The Sandman.
Oh.
And it's another brilliant thing to look up on YouTube.
I think I've seen that.
Have you seen it?
I'm pretty sure I've seen that.
Yeah, I saw it at an animation festival in a theater when I was about 13, and oh my god, it scared the bejesus out of me.
Wow.
I had nightmares about this thing. I was just like, oh.
You know, it's actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm getting like glimpses of something that I think I've seen this.
Those are flashbacks, Heather.
Yeah,
Yes.
from my days in Nam.
Yes.
I like
the name.
like Sandman, and then yeah.
Watch out for Charlie up in the trees.
All right, I'll look that one up because that's cool. I had no idea. I honestly
that's Paul
just
Berry.
thought that Tim Burton was stylistically that way.
No, that was all Barry and Henry Selick, who's probably better known for Coraline now.
I never saw that.
He also
Neither have
worked
I.
on.
Is it okay?
Yeah. He also worked on Nightmare Before Christmas. So I mean, you got all these like stop motion giants working with Burton, and Burton got all the
Right.
credit. So I just
Aw,
wanted to throw that out there.
No.
Nightmare Before Christmas, though, I mean, it was never huge on my list. I'll be open about that. But I've noticed, like, that movie really is some people, that's their whole life.
Yeah.
Like,
it
that's
really
like
is.
their favorite thing of all time. Like, people, I mean, you see Halloween costumes every year. People are, dressing up like characters
Jack
in
and
that movie.
Sally.
Yeah. And I mean, it's something I've just seen consistently since that movie came out. And I mean, I've always kind of, maybe I should go back and really sit down and digest it.
Oh,
Because
it's
people
an
sister loves it.
incredible looking movie.
Yeah, I mean, it looks great. My sister's a huge fan of that.
I think there's something with The Nightmare Before Christmas is that this movie kind of came out at the peak of Tim Burton's career.
Yeah.
And it was something different. Like he had already done like Edward Scissorhands and some other big stuff.
Yeah.
And then he released this movie that crossed Halloween and Christmas.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And it was the first time that a lot of people had seen that type of animation.
Yeah.
And
Done
people,
so well, at least,
Yeah.
and people are really into those characters. I mean, like, go to Hot Topic, dude.
Oh,
That's what I'm
God.
saying. I mean, I just see
It's
it
like
everywhere.
the Nightmare Before Christmas store now.
Yeah.
You see it all over the place still to this day. Anywhere you go, you see shirts. And
It's a
whatever.
cultural
It's a-
phenomenon.
Thank you. There you go. That's
Yes.
It
exactly
really
what
is.
It is.
Nightmare Before Christmas is just a really good love story, though.
Yeah.
You know,
That's why
it's a really neat love story, I think.
So
Chris, yeah, you want to.
there's
you
this
keep staring at your phone.
really stupid animated movie that's always stuck with me, and people are gonna laugh, but when I was a kid this movie came out. It was called Star Chaser The Legend of Orin, and it was a 3D animated movie. You had to wear the red and blue
that.
Huh.
3D glasses. But we went to go see it because it was like, oh, wow, cool, a new space movie. And then we go and see it, and there's an old gray wizard, and the guy finds the sword, and then they have to fight this guy that's just like Darth Vader. It's a complete Star Wars ripoff. Like, and even the one of the main heroes wears like a vest type coat, and he flies this spaceship that is some rendition of the Millennium Falcon.
Wow.
It is a
God,
complete.
are you kidding me?
It's a total Star Wars ripoff from front to back. But I adore this movie because the animation is really cool, and it has that core Star Wars story to it. Like blonde guy on this planet. He's a slave. He has to escape. Blah 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 blah. It's really good though. It's really good. Cheesy as fuck. And like when you're watching it, you're like, oh yeah, they stole that from George Lucas. Oh, that too. But yeah, it's one that I think people that like animated films and like science fiction, but are into Star Wars too, would like totally dig on this thing. And it bombed at the movies.
Yeah.
It totally
Imagine that.
bombed.
Imagine
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, imagine that.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Can I
But
throw
even the
go ahead.
poster for it, I think I've got it on my phone from earlier.
Yeah.
It's pretty bad. It says something about the promotion for it says The search for the Force is over.
God.
The adventure
Who the hell got sued, man?
The adventure is about to begin.
Wow.
So just wanted to throw that one
I want
out
to throw
there.
a curveball at this conversation big time. Because I come across one when I was doing my research for this thing, and it's one I loved watching. And it's
not animated porn, is it?
There was one. There was an earlier version of Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, you got me.
Tentacles.
You know, speaking of Atari, there was about six. Me and Michelle were talking about this. There was about 6 or 7 like porno Atari games.
Oh yeah, yeah, I
Adult-
do know that.
It was creepy. It's really they're really bad. Anyways, Walking with Dinosaurs 3D. You guys ever see that?
Yeah.
I did
Well,
not
I
see
watched
that.
a little
There
bit
was
of it.
there was
Yeah.
actually I think the original one was from like the early 2000s. It was all like digital animation, which is it's a great story. They kind of tell a story about I think one dinosaur, but through that you get to see
Name's
all
Littlefoot.
Littlefoot. Yeah, look at you. I think is that what it is?
No,
That's the land
That's
before
that's
time.
land
It was
before time.
No, there was a name for one of them. I forgot. You
Oh.
you guys are fucking me up now. I quit. I'm gonna go home. I thought there was a name for one, but it's been a while. Oh, fuck this. You move on. I'm kidding.
Are you talking about Walking with Dinosaurs?
Yeah, Walking with
Yeah.
Dinosaurs. There was there's Walking with Dinosaurs 3D, and that's 2013. There was one before that though, and I actually have it on VHS.
Yeah, the only one I'm thinking of is Dinosaur, the Disney one.
No, this is Walking with Dinosaurs, and it's
Okay,
more of
I
a
haven't seen that
documentary
one.
type thing.
Yeah,
there
it's
wasn't.
kinda-
It
it's
follows
just
a
kind of
character though, and what the
I
hell the
didn't know
character's
that.
name was? I thought that's from what's that from? Littlefoot.
Land Before Time.
Okay, I never even saw that. I haven't seen that. I know.
You at least
You
get to see
think
the
the
first one.
you think the first 10 minutes of Up is bad? Why don't you watch
Oh my God.
Land Before Time?
But Walking with Dinosaurs really, it's more of like a historical type documentary.
Yeah.
And they do follow. There are characters, kind of.
I
but-
understand.
But like,
There's a narrative over the top
Yeah,
of the movie
yeah.
telling
Yeah.
you what's happening.
yeah.
And it's a
Kinda
young
like-
dinosaur with his
named Littlefoot.
mother,
We're just gonna call it Littlefoot.
with his mother dinosaur.
Yeah.
And violent things start to happen. It's all
She gets
CGI.
killed by a
Yeah,
Tyrannosaurus.
it's CGI.
It's all CGI. I took Connor to see
cool.
it. It's a really cool.
It was
Something like
like-
seeing some gigantic pteranodon taking a big giant dump. They show that.
Wow,
It's completely
cool.
insane. They said that it was one of this particular dinosaur shits 2 tons a day. I'm like, imagine that. It's a car. It's a car. It poops a car every day.
Wow.
But the vast scale they talk about, like the first
Yeah.
the Titans they call them. These things were just so huge.
Yeah.
So as far as like information, it was really fun to watch. I mean, I haven't watched it in a lot of years, but it stuck out with me. I liked it. It was super cool. So if you like dinosaurs, Walking with Dinosaurs.
Yeah, I
Back to
remember-
Check that
Dana.
one out. I'll
Dana.
have to check that one out. Okay. I was going back through my mind thinking about some of the ones from the 70s because that's kind of where I started. And there's one in particular that I always tell people about, and they look at me like I imagined it. And for a long time, I thought I did. But I saw it on cable when I was really little, and it stuck with me. And it's called The Extraordinary Adventures of the Mouse and His Child. And it's very simply animated. It's a beautiful movie. It's essentially about it's based on a Russell Hoban children's novel of The Mouse and His Child. And I actually came to Russell Hoban through this movie because and he became my favorite author. I started reading his books after I saw this. And anyways, it's basically about this toy mouse, these tin mice. They're wind-up mice, and they're father and child, and they're joined at the hands. And you wind them up, and they're supposed to dance in a circle. Well, they break. They're in the toy shop, and they break, and so they can only start walking forward. But they have no idea what they are. They don't realize they're toys. They don't understand what life is. So they kind of set off from the toy shop in search of becoming self-winding. And it's very philosophical for an animated movie. And that's essentially what it is. It's their journey towards self-winding. And they come across all different animals along the way that kind of try to
It's heavy.
I
teach
know,
them
for
how
an
to become
animated
safe.
film
Yeah,
like
and I
that.
saw this when I was
Heavy.
really, really little. And I never forgot it.
Wow, this was in the 70s? Sorry, my
I
feet
think
are up.
so. I think
I'm making noises.
I
with my
want to
feet.
say it was 72.
72. Okay.
But it's out of print. So the only way to see it, if it's still on YouTube, some kind soul uploaded the entire movie.
My kind soul.
So it may still actually be there.
The event.
I don't know.
What did you say? Was
The Extraordinary Adventures of the Mouse and His Child.
Adventures.
Just
Okay.
type in The Mouse and His Child and it'll
Okay.
come up.
Yeah.
But it's an unusual film, and if you watch it and you sit and try to imagine being a little kid seeing it,
Yeah.
it'll explain even more about about me. I saw a lot of this stuff when I was really little, and it's stuck in my head because we had cable, and Nickelodeon used to put this stuff on the weekends all the time.
Really?
Yeah, they'd have
How old is Nickelodeon? When did
Nickelodeon-
Nickelodeon
Oh.
start?
70s.
Seriously?
1978 or
Say
79.
what?
But when it started, it was called Pinwheel.
Oh.
And it only had one show. It was this children's show called Pinwheel that had.
Oh, I know what Pinwheel is.
You remember Pinwheel?
Yeah, I do.
It was kind of like Sesame Street, but
Right.
but it had all
But
the
it was
animated
fucking
interstitials.
psychedelic.
Yeah, well, all the animated interstitials were foreign cartoons.
Oh, look at that.
Speaking of, it's funny we mentioned that because I just was playing around the other day and I Wikipedia'd You Can't Do That on Television.
Ah, yeah.
Which is another kind of cool. I mean, it was a show on Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
But they did some kind of interesting mixture with animation in that. It was more stills they would mix in with it. If you remember the credit stuff they would roll
Yeah.
in there, it was interesting. But
Alanis
yeah, that was
Morissette was on that show.
what's that? Yeah, Alanis
Yeah,
Morissette.
She's on that show.
That was always fun. I about 10, 12 years ago, I did one of them rabbit hole dives for that show and watched all the episodes. And
Yeah, I haven't seen that in
then,
years.
of course, had to find out what all those people are doing now. And they're all pretty well. They didn't really go on as much of it. Well, Alanis Morissette was probably the most successful one out of all of them.
Yeah.
But that was one of them old Nickelodeon shows from back in the day that was fun to watch.
Well,
cool.
it was a Canadian show, so technically it was another one of those things that Nickelodeon imported, because in Nickelodeon's early days, all it ever did was take other countries' shows,
Yeah.
and like Danger Mouse and Count Duckula from England, and all of the short films on Pinwheel were all from like France and Italy and England.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
and then You Can't Do That on Television was Canadian. So I mean, it was all this stuff came from elsewhere because they were just kind of trying to build a network and see what
Yeah.
would work and what would stick.
That'd be an interesting documentary to hear about that.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
All them that old stuff's
fascinating.
always totally interesting. I got to throw this out there. We were talking about the 70s, 1973.
Big bushes.
Yeah, that too. Charlotte's Web.
Yes.
Aw.
Oh,
Oh my God.
That came out in 73.
Yeah.
Holy
That-
junk.
What a
Oh
heartbreaker.
my God. That.
That'll
yeah.
do, pig. Fuck.
Yeah.
it's been
that's-
so long since I've seen that.
Saw that in the theater.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it was my mom took me to like a feature in the theater, and that we've talked about I think when the Christmas show we talked about like learning about mortality. Mm-hmm. Like that was
Oh,
one of,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
That was one of those ones that I had to, Mom, what the hell's going on here?
Right.
Well, death. This shit happens. You got to deal with it, dude. And it was like, that fucked me up. I won't lie. Charlotte's Web really kind of screwed me up. That was really sad, and you got this just, all right, well, moving on. I'm going to start crying.
Oh.
No,
Hard to
Charlotte,
watch.
watching
with you.
Charlotte's Web as a kid, I don't think I fully understood either. And I just kind of was like, oh, that looks cool. Oh, animals talking.
Hard.
and then,
Oh, yeah, totally
you know,
awesome. Like,
but
I mean, and that's one of the things I think with animation too that's so, like, especially like Charlotte's Web, giving animals a personality, right? Like, you can't. I mean, you're seeing it a lot now. I mean, especially with all the digital animation and stuff like that, we see this all the time. But back then, like Charlotte's Web, that was one of those ones where it's like, wow, man, I'd love to have a pig that had a personality like that and that felt and wanted something out of life and all this stuff.
There's probably a lot of vegetarians after that movie.
Yeah.
yeah,
hard.
probably.
It's. I look back on that and it's like, wow, that was just heavy, too heavy for a
yeah,
little
too
kid.
heavy for a little kid. But see, that's the thing. Little kids just don't get that stuff.
No,
you
they
know?
don't.
Well, you
And
know
it-
what? I would argue that they do on a level, but they don't have the words that we have to describe that.
Sure.
Because I know I certainly felt there were a lot of really heavy and complex emotions I felt after watching Watership Down, for example.
Yeah.
But,
Okay.
but I had no words for how I felt. And like just it was this strange existential horror that I felt suddenly, and I'm 4 years old trying to figure out what did I
Yeah.
just watch?
Yeah, sure.
And why do I feel
Right.
this weird feeling?
And you haven't even
In
drawn.
my pants.
Right, and you barely even know what to do with
Well,
yourself
no, you
already.
you
know?
haven't the wires haven't been crossed in your
Yeah.
brain yet to try to even fathom that idea, try to understand what's going on.
Yeah, and,
so that's confusing.
And a problem I have with a lot of kids' entertainment today is it doesn't go there anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't.
It doesn't.
Well,
it
it gets
doesn't
fucking
think.
sued. That's
It
why.
goes, you know
Well, it
where
doesn't
it goes?
think- yeah, it
goes,
doesn't
it
think.
goes more towards the adults stuff that we already know. Like they put the little seeds in there for the adults to keep, because they have
Well,
to go
they
see
interject a
these-
lot of adult humor that the kids aren't going to understand to try and keep the adults happy while they're
Right.
watching the animated
Yeah,
films.
that's what
but
I
it
mean.
doesn't need to be there because
No.
if I go see an animated film at the theater with my kids, I'm there for them and myself secondary at this point. So
Right.
realistically, that adult humor does not need to be there to keep me
No.
entertained. And actually, at times, it's kind of upset me when they're putting,
Is parenting that hard these days?
Well,
yeah.
here's.
But
I mean,
they
I'm not
put-
saying to you. I'm just saying.
But they put like adult oriented humor in
Right.
animated films that it's to try and keep us
The adults
the
interested.
parents interested. I don't need that because I'm happy like going and watching the Lego movie with my
Yes.
kids because I know they're enthralled by what's happening on screen and I can walk out of that being satisfied that my
yeah.
kids were entertained and we got our money's worth. I don't need dick and fart jokes
Right,
that
yeah.
are like
My
an
kids'
undercurrent
movies, yeah.
to
Yeah.
a child's movie. It doesn't
But-
need to be there.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not even talking so much about adult jokes. I'm talking more about themes.
Yeah, I
I'm
know.
talking more
right.
about
Oh,
like
that's-
what we were just talking about Charlotte's Web and thinking
Yeah.
about mortality and that heavy stuff. I mean, nowadays you don't find that so much anymore. They
No,
don't. They
that's
don't
what I
come to
meant,
that
like, it's
really
just
super
being
serious.
replaced,
It's oh well, little Jimmy has to learn about death someday.
Right.
And I'm pretty grateful that I had that kind of entertainment when I was younger because I think it shaped who I was and it made me want to think more critically about what I watched when I was getting older.
Absolutely. I totally agree.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I mentioned Charlotte's Web. That was one of those ones that, and like you're talking about those impressions, and not just impressions visually, but just idea impressions. And that's kind of what the same thing. That's kind of running that, like you mentioned earlier, which I love. That I'm fascinated with that idea. Just this idea of things being imprinted on your mind and they carry through your entire life.
Yeah.
Charlotte's Web, going back to that, that's one of those ones that just left the hook in me. Like, whoa, holy crap!
Yeah.
This is like really. This is, and I understand it now.
Well, yeah.
Didn't when I was young.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the
Exactly.
point.
You
See,
don't
like it
understand
gives
it
you
then.
the ability to, like you said, you just didn't have the words, but you were feeling something, so you questioned it and you sought out what was
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah.
That gives someone who's younger the capability of learning at a faster rate. One and two, something that they can use.
Yeah.
They'll understand the things around them.
A coping tool.
Yeah.
Because I mean,
Yeah.
children feel things so deeply.
Right.
Children have very complicated emotional lives, but they can't connect cerebrally to those emotional lives at
Yeah.
certain ages yet. So having that bridge, that animated movie or whatever that I could point to and say, well, this is why I'm asking these questions.
Right.
And this is why I'm thinking about this. And there's that bridge, and it kind of opens up a bit of communication. And I wish that we had that more for our kids today.
I
Well, like I
wish
said,
so too.
That made me communicate with my mother.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, what I mean, I like, Mom, what the hell's going on here?
Why does Charlotte have to die?
Yeah, why
Right.
is Charlotte can't die? No, she does.
Oh, yes, she
It's
can.
It's a cycle of life. It's nature. It's how things work. We got to lighten this shit up. This is killing me.
Okay, so
We're gonna make
Dying
Scott
here.
cry.
I'm gonna lighten this shit up right now. I'm gonna mention the best animated movie ever made, starring Saddam
You
and
got
Satan.
Thank
I
you.
knew
Thank
we
you.
were
You
gonna
read my mind.
Yes.
1999.
Hey, come on.
This was on my list too.
Shut your fucking
South
face,
Park,
Uncle fucker.
Bigger, longer, and uncut.
Woo-wee.
Uncle fucker.
This shit came out 20
Off the hook.
years ago.
Yeah.
We watched this just last year.
We did.
And it
I
holds
wish I would have been here when you guys
It's
watched
South
that.
Park.
I love that goddamn
it
movie.
holds up. Those guys are so spot on with everything that they make that 20 years later it's still
Still
relevant.
hilarious. Too.
relevant,
were-
and it's still so funny.
It's
Oh my
funny
god,
as
It was so
that
great
movie.
because when that came out, I mean, people were walking out of the theater. People were, and Trey Parker and Matt Stone, they discussed this and said, the movie they did, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut, they said, this is the output of all the stuff that Comedy Central would not let us do.
Yeah.
They said we were going to take this thing and just amp it up and rip the knob off and just scare the crap out of people. And they did. I mean, and I saw it happen in the theater when we saw it first. A couple of people literally, I mean, I heard them just huffing and puffing because they thought they were going to see an episode of South Park that was an hour and a half long.
Right.
It's like, no, this is the theater movie. You thought those guys were vile before? Oh,
Right.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
I had the opposite experience. So when I saw it in the theater, it was great.
We were dying. We
As
loved
soon
it.
as the Uncle Fucker movie part at the end of the Uncle Fucker song where they start farting,
Yeah.
and every single person in that theater just
Suck my balls.
busted out laughing. We were just, oh my god, we were
Oh,
just
we
crying
had a
laughing.
time of our life. It was
so fantastic. And
If you're a South Park fan, dude,
it's
there's no limits.
Yeah.
it's so great, and South Park is still good.
Yeah, South
Still
Park
is.
is still
It's
good.
still good. It's still
know-
Those guys are geniuses.
they are.
They are.
But seriously, Satan and Saddam Hussein are a gay couple.
Now, who thinks this shit?
And Satan is like-
it's more of that. Dude.
And
People just-
Satan is like the wussy one of the two. of them.
Right, yeah.
Okay, Saddam. You just don't communicate with me anymore. I mean, come on, dude.
Come on, guy.
Come on, guys, take a look at it. I just like the dildo scene.
Yeah, I know. It's
Flying
like,
all over this.
Oh my god, that was so
God, dude.
Jesus.
It just doesn't. Trey Parker and Matt Stone just. I said that earlier. Yesterday, I was talking to Amber. I'm like, have you ever seen Basketball?
Oh my god, that movie.
And I
movie.
speaking of impressions in your brain, I'm sorry, Matt. I'm sorry, Trey. Like, I remember seeing that. I live with my parents still when Basketball came out, and it was one of those ones where it's like, no. Oh, yeah. And I actually said that to Amber. I'm like, have you ever seen Basketball? She's like, no. I'm like,
Oh my
Here
God.
it goes.
YouTube.
Yeah.
At least just that. That's just those guys. Just there's no end to it. And South Park. Bigger, Longer, and Uncut. It's one of the things that those guys have done.
For me, that's like a pinnacle. Even though like the animation is simple, the humor, the adult content, just everything about it, like they didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
And they just threw it all out there.
And not only that, but there's so many little, throwaway homages to different films and genres in that movie,
Well, they've done that. They've done that with the series for years.
And it's just if you show the movie to somebody who's never seen South Park before, I mean, it's just it'll make a fan of them.
Well, you know what always struck me as funny about the South Park movie is that the Beavis and Butthead movie, Beavis and Butthead Do America
that was
movie
on
came
my
out.
list too.
Yeah.
But I remember when that movie came out, it kind of had like an opposite effect. Like people were really excited about it, but a lot of people didn't really like it because you couldn't really extend Beavis and Butthead to 90 minutes. So a lot of people got annoyed with that movie. South Park, Bigger, Longer, Uncut, is the total opposite.
It expanded things.
Yeah.
'cause-
Yes.
Well, they had the whole filth element to work with. Like I said, that was their main thing. They're like, the main reason we wanted to do a movie is because we really wanted to just take this thing to the next level, and Comedy Central would not let us do it. The Beavis and the Butthead movie, which is on my list, which was a lot of fun. I had a riot with that.
I love that
That's
movie.
a funny movie.
But yeah, it was just kind of this adventure they went on, and it did kind of get after a while like.
It felt to me like how they try to make movies out of Saturday Night Live skits.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Like you
there you
can't drag something for 10 minutes that's funny for 10 minutes. You can't. It's not Sideshow Bob stepping on rakes.
I mean, the Beavis and Butthead TV show, those were 15-minute episodes.
Yeah. All I did was just make fun of cheese
commercials,
metal.
you know? So
basically.
it's like
All they did was
literally
just
it
make
was
fun of
like
music.
5 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, that was.
and that was the funniest shit about that show.
Right.
Yeah,
That was
them
why I
sitting there
watched
making
it.
fun of a video.
Yeah.
They at one time, I'm willing to say this. At one time, I think Beavis and Butthead were the biggest biggest music critics in the country.
Oh, yeah.
And Rob Zombie went on record saying that. Rob Zombie even said, he's like, if it wasn't for Beavis and Butthead, I wouldn't have a career now. Because Beavis and Butthead freaked out and said,
Dude.
Rob Zombie was
Yeah.
amazing, and they started selling records.
It wasn't just White Zombie, it was Helmet, too.
Was it Helmet, too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know Rob Zombie went on record saying that. I was like, whoa, that's true. I
Because
said that back in the day.
Helmet's album was kind of flat.
What,
And
Meantime?
then, and then
First
they
album?
they
That was
did
a
Beavis and
classic.
Butthead started picking on Unsung.
Yeah.
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
Yes. My favorite will always be washing the dog. That's that just washing the dog.
Yeah.
Like a Judas Priest. I'm like,
Right,
oh my
washing the
God.
dog. Man, that was some of the best shit though.
But that's the thing
Beavis
with
and Butthead was so
but
good that way.
But there was it was a lot of pieces though, and I love. I think they're great, but really you just get like TP for bunghole and that whole
Right.
thing.
Yeah,
There's
TP
a
for my bunghole.
a lot of taglines, and if you try to like make an hour and a half movie out of that,
Right. Did they even watch music videos in the movie? I don't even
No.
think they
No,
sat on
I
a-
don't think they could.
in the beginning of the movie. They were in their house, but
I don't think copyright would have allowed them at the time. I don't know how that worked.
Before we get off of the more adult-oriented cartoons,
yeah.
I do have to also mention 2004 Team America.
oh
World
right,
Police.
duh.
Dude,
Oh.
thank you.
Of
Not really.
course.
That was the.
I thought that was
Yeah.
puppets.
Yeah.
That's not.
Oh, that is
animation.
puppets. Okay, sorry.
I promise I won't die.
You know what though?
Best line
puppets.
from the movie.
Puppets. I gotta come
Eric
back for the puppet show if
Baldwin.
we're gonna do a puppet show.
If I remember correctly,
I'll give
Team
you a
America,
puppet show.
Yeah.
the puppeteers in that,
I'm not your puppet.
the
your
puppeteers
hand
in
out
that
of there.
were so good. Trey Parker and I read an interview with
Yeah.
those guys, and they said when they were making it, they said the puppeteers who were doing that were so good at what they did that they made those things look completely lifelike.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And they actually had to tell them, like, dude, dumb it down a little
Yeah.
bit, make them look a little bit sloppy. We want this to look goofy. And they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? This,
Right.
they're like, no, we want you to be sloppy. Do a bad job. Because, yeah, and if you look at, the whole shh, and like
Yeah.
she pokes him in the face or something. And the sex scene, oh my dear God in heaven. That disturbed me for like months after I saw that,
man.
The puking
right.
scene, it just keeps.
That's one of my favorite gifts. To
More
use.
Trey Parker and Matt Stone
I know,
stuff.
those guys are geniuses.
They don't ever let up. All right, Chris, fine. Move on.
Dana, go.
Dana, go.
Boy, I don't want to bring up anything highbrow now.
It's totally fine.
But I suppose if we're going to stick to more adult animation, then we can go back to the stop motion topic. Anomalisa was really good.
Anomalisa?
Anomalisa,
Okay.
which I reviewed when it came out a couple of years ago, and it was an unusual premise because it dealt with a guy that had a specific disorder. And it's kind of from his point of view, so you kind of get the sense of what it feels like to have the disorder he has. And it's kind of a...
This came
it's an
out a few
unusual
years
movie.
ago?
Yeah, was it 2016? 2015, 2016?
Was it nominated for anything?
It was. I'm not sure if it went up for an Oscar or not. I don't remember. I'm lousy at doing my research for these things, but... but, I mean, but I did...
Is it American?
Yes.
Oh.
Charlie Kaufman.
Oh.
Did this. That's a really good one. And another one that I saw recently that not quite as adult but
Alright.
but very kind of a bit of a serious sort of stop motion French film was My Life as a Zucchini. That was really
Oh, that's
good
on
too.
Netflix right now.
That's fantastic.
Okay.
It's
It's on Netflix.
that
Yeah.
movie almost got my first bloody bullet. That was
Really?
that movie almost got a 10 from me. There were a couple of little things that
My life is a zucchini.
My
Yeah.
Life is a Zucchini.
That's a
Ma vie est un courgette. It's a
with these
fantastic
people?
movie.
What was that?
It's a fantastic movie. It's
Yeah.
but it deals with some kind of serious stuff because it's about abused kids.
Oh God, I can't watch that.
And it's got, I mean, it's a positive movie. It's actually really well done because they could have made it really maudlin and
Yeah.
really
horrible,
horrible, but it's not like that at all. You say that, oh, I can't watch that, but actually it's I think you would enjoy it, and that's actually one of the main reasons why I liked it so much was it dealt with some really difficult stuff, but it handled it so gracefully and so beautifully that and the animation itself is a little weird if you can get beyond that. I mean,
I thought it looked pretty cool actually.
The design of the characters is a little unusual. It's kind of a French animation thing.
Yeah, it kind of looks like paper.
Yeah,
being like folded up and then stuck to doing stuff. You know, like,
I think it was made with clay, but
really?
It's stop motion, but I'm not sure if it's clay or plasticine or what it is, but it's a really good movie. I recommend it.
It's a lot of sharp, edgy looking things. I don't know how else to explain it, but like I said, like it looks like you folded paper into something and then you kind of like blew it up and then used that, you know, because it's got a lot of straight lines in it and shapes and things like that.
Yeah, it's very geometric.
Yeah.
The characters are, rounded, but the world they live in, it's more angular and more,
the texture of everything.
And it's very, everything is starkly colored.
Yeah.
It's really...
Maybe I'll have to sit down and watch this now.
It's on. I'm pretty sure it's on Netflix. I saw it. I'm pretty sure I saw it on Netflix. I don't know. I have Michelle's Hulu and I have Amazon Prime, so I don't know which one I was looking at, but I'm pretty sure it's on Netflix.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but
all right.
I definitely recommend.
I always say I always say I like dark shit, but then when somebody says like, "Yeah, this is dark," I'm like, "You're scared, so I can't deal with that." So I'll have to dive in. If you're giving the
I've got some dark stuff for you though. Oh, if you want dark stuff with the darker animated
she
things.
led the show off with bunnies killing bunnies and shit.
Well, and even worse than that is Martin Rosen's Plague Dogs adaptation, which is about lab animals. And okay, if you saw The Secret of NIMH and that freaked you out, you don't want to watch The Plague Dogs.
I've actually never seen that movie.
Because The Plague Dogs is just bleak.
You're a freak.
Yes,
you like all this crazy
stuff. I know. But
it's because she was 4 years old watching bunnies killing bunnies and shit.
It's true, but this is the kind of stuff that nobody writes about or talks about or remembers, and that's why I like to talk about it because who else are you going to hear about this crap from? I'm the weird friend that watches all the crazy animated things, and I have some of them on DVD.
No, it's great
because
I just got some really great suggestions to watch now.
And there's actually one film that I remember from my childhood that I haven't seen since my childhood because I can't find it. It's out of print. It was a Hungarian movie about a fox cub, and his parents die at the beginning. They get killed by a hunter, and then he spends the rest of the film trying to find and kill the hunter.
Dang! I want to see that.
That's justice.
It's called Vuk.
Vuk.
So basically,
V-U-K,
basically
which means
it's
little fox.
an animated death wish about an animal.
But it's sweet. Yeah, it's oddly animated because it's in kind of the Hungarian, the Eastern European style, which is really neat looking. I mean, it's very stylized. It's really neat looking. I've asked Chris Jordan to try to find it for me because it's been out of print for years. Vuk.
I've always liked how the older animation looks. It has a very distinct feeling to it. I mean, I know you're just watching it, but it feels really soft, and even though there's a lot of lines,
everything was done practically, and everything's analog, and they're still using film at that point to do everything
everything just has this beautiful tone to it.
There's texture to it.
Yeah, texture. Yeah. Well, it does have depth. It does have depth. I mean, digital animation, I mean, some of the stuff I see, it does blow my mind. Mm-hmm. I mean, Pixar, everything of Pixar, that stuff is so
the verisimilitude
good.
in that stuff is
But it's to me, it's like, like digital animation now, whether it's CGI, whatever it might be, it's gotten to a point, and it looks great, but I think it's too detailed now. It's too rich. It's just too rich.
Right, like just make a real movie.
Well, and I'm not complaining at all, really. But I mean, we talk about. I mean, I did have the Transformers, the movie on here from '86, but I mean, going to like even the new Transformers films, which are heavily CGI'd. I've said that in the past about those films. They are so dense, like the character, Optimus Prime.
Right.
Like, I mean, dude, I remember back in the day, like Transformers the movie. They would transform, and it was like, and that's it. You're done.
Yeah.
Right. It's simple, couple of moving parts. That's it. But in the new films, and which, God, that's like 10, 12 years ago now, the original Transformers came out. Even the first one, I mean, it was majestic to watch, Optimus Prime transform in front of us like the real deal. And it was amazing to watch all these moving parts working together, right? But it got to be an overload, I think, at least on my puny little brain, because there was just, even watching them fight, it was like, okay, there's just a couple of lumps of metal rolling around here.
Yeah.
So to me, the complications simplified again in that situation, right?
Sure.
But at the same time, there's just so much depth and richness. It looks great. I mean, it's a testament to how good these people are.
Yeah.
But
No question.
But the depth and richness, I think when you're talking about just doing film, just, hand printing let's just call it analog. There was a simplicity to that did make it, okay, this is otherworldly. And that's what made it just different, I think.
Sure.
It looks real now. It's like, well, yeah, like you said, Heather, just make a friggin' real movie then.
Just make a freaking movie.
Practical
Right.
sets.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. That's just my take on it.
Transformers, the movie, which was what, 86, I
86,
believe?
Yeah,
Yeah.
86, yeah.
That
The
still
year I was born.
that still holds up really, really well.
Looks great.
Oh,
Looks
man.
great.
That's a classic. Actually, people still talk about that movie. They still put out T-shirts and different merchandise from that movie. Like last year, I got the anniversary vinyl set from
Ooh.
that.
Cool.
Nice.
There's a lot of stuff that still revolves around that, and it just kind of shows that people actually respect
Yeah.
that older stuff quite a bit more than they do like what's been done on film.
Right.
And the patience and
Yeah.
time it
Oh my
took
God.
to hand draw, all the Decepticons and Autobots and make them transform.
The cartoon series was the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tons of work.
Yep.
Well, it's so funny you say that because we started off the show. I know we're kind of getting towards the end here. And I kind of went into my suggested viewing and I was freaking out about Atari, right? And it's the same kind of weird thing. Like I've been having a lot of conversations about classic gaming, classic Atari, which is, it applies here because, we look at games now and it's the same thing. These games blow my mind, seeing some of this stuff. It's like a movie that you're controlling.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I think it's so cool. Not for me, but I appreciate the art. I still talk to people. I've been talking to people and they're like, oh, dude, yeah. I mean, I like playing all these, these big games now, but dude, there's nothing like going back and playing Dragster on Atari 2600, a game that was made in like 1978 that literally it's pure 8-bit gaming.
Yeah.
It's hilarious to look at, but people like to go back to that. When things were a bit simpler, I think they were just there for you to play. Simple little games you would just play over and over again, and you keep losing. Right? You didn't win. You never won. There was no way to win. Right? But I think there is that thing where we talk about we have the Transformers of today and we have the Transformers of 1986. And it's the same thing. It's a simpler thing. It's a different look. And people we always seem to be going back and nodding, giving the tip of the hat to the pioneers.
Well, because people, including all four of us, nostalgia is a huge thing for us, especially being in our 30s or 40s. Like, we're at that age now where, our childhood is behind us.
Yeah.
And going back and watching these things that really kind of shaped us as people and shaped part of our mentality and who we are.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, I'd prefer if we had a little bit of that more simple hand-drawn animation. I don't always want to watch
Perfectly mathematical.
this 3D rendered animation. A
Yeah.
flat 2D image of bunnies killing each other is totally fine with me because that's how it was initially done.
And that was the pioneers.
Yeah.
Like I said, these are people that were just doing this and figuring it out and literally people just writing the rules as they went along. I mean, nostalgia is a big thing, I think. You really nailed it, Chris. The idea, I know at least for me, is like, and you said this, Dana, and it really does stick with me. Like, did I actually see that? Did I actually see that shit?
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. I got to go back and watch this. I watched
Yeah.
it like 20 years ago.
Yeah, I have a friend who she was telling me about an animated movie she used to watch when she was a kid that her mom used to put on for her, and she's like, it traumatized me. And I don't know if this was a real movie or not. So she described it to me, and I said, well, describe how it looked. So she did, and I said, you know what? I bet that's a Yoram Gross movie because it sounded like Yoram Gross, the guy who did Dot and the Kangaroo and those movies. So she said, this is what it's called. It was called Sarah and the Squirrel. And it was about a little girl whose family gets taken away during the Holocaust.
Good God.
And yeah, well, I found it. I found a DVD of it and I bought it for her. So we went and watched
and
it.
did she try to kill you?
And
Be
she
like, what are
no,
you doing?
she was happy. She was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you found this. Now I can
Wow.
watch it
Yeah.
and see." Like you say, she was like, "I can't believe my mother let me watch." So like we're watching it, so she pulls her phone out. She's texting her mom. She's like, "Why did you let me watch this?
How
This
dare
movie
you?
is so
You're the worst
depressing."
parent ever. Wow.
I'm like, and I just, it's that kind of thing. Like these things stick with you, and they create this thing in your mind where you think, oh my gosh, did I hallucinate that, or was that real, or how did that, and why?
Yeah.
I love
You
that
know?
all of the movies that you guys are talking about, they're just like way back in the day, but like your guys' childhoods were much different than mine. Like back in the 70s and early 80s and things like that, like y'all motherfuckers did whatever the hell you wanted to do. Your parents didn't give a shit about you.
Well, no, the heavy metal thing I mentioned, like my parents just didn't have the right. They didn't
No,
know.
I'm totally just
No,
kidding.
I know,
But you know,
Yeah,
They just
neither
didn't
did my
know.
neighbors. They just were like, oh,
yeah,
bunnies,
but I mean that's the thing. Like
cartoon bunnies.
like back in the day, nobody knew better because there wasn't so much of this political correctness and like.
Helicopter
There wasn't all
parenting.
of these like the parenting books that came out in the 70s and 80s that thought were to be like top shelf, parenting and all this stuff.
Yeah,
that
the
shit is just nonsensical. Like,
parenting books in the 70s are, and it literally would say things like, "Yeah, make sure you put your cigarette in the ashtray before you pick
Right.
the baby up instead of holding it in your
exactly,
mouth."
that's what I'm saying. Like it was such a simple thing,
Well, there,
like,
yeah, I mean, and the art does reflect on that too.
Oh,
I think.
Mhm,
for sure.
absolutely.
Like you mentioned, and I know we got to take off here in a second, Chris.
We're
but,
good.
Like the idea, like contemporary animated films now for kids. And I've noticed that the ones I have seen, I've noticed that I'm like, this is stuff that's relevant that I really understand, and that's why I said it earlier, Chris. It wasn't towards you, but is it that hard to be a parent? Because I thought the idea of being a parent was this is the job. You have a child, so you're going to have to put up with a lot of kid stuff now.
Yeah.
And yeah, it may not be your first choice. You may want to watch Rambo instead of, Rainbow something, whatever.
Thing of note, there was an animated Rambo series.
Yes, there was.
Also,
Yes,
there
there
was.
was.
oh my goodness.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
It was Filmation, wasn't it?
Yeah, yep.
The same guys who did.
G.I. Joe.
Yeah,
Wow.
and He-Man.
Yep.
But that thing,
That's
that's why I asked
hilarious.
that, though. It's just that, like, okay, so we have to, we got to keep the adults interested. Who gives a shit about the adults? This isn't for the adults. This is for the children. The children.
Well, and that's why we need more family entertainers. That's why I love
Yeah.
Aardman so much, because Aardman
future.
can make films that
Heal the
appeal to adults
world.
and kids without being particularly one or the other. That's where we miss Jim Henson, we miss Walt
Yeah.
Disney, we miss people who knew how to appeal to both without going in extremes on either direction.
Sure. Split
Man.
right down the middle. See, my thing about going back and having all that nostalgia is just I'm so hard to impress. So I'm
Well, clearly
really
you didn't cry
disappointed.
up.
Yeah, you
I'm
didn't cry.
disappointed at what we have today. Like that's why I would choose watching Ghostbusters over than going to see a new movie. Honestly, I'm just so tired of being
Well,
disappointed.
Like Big Hero 6 was out 4 or 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that was like the 3D rendered animation
Yeah.
by Disney, but it was a Marvel property
Yeah,
previously. Like that is a very good example of Disney putting out an animated film that kind of crosses spectrums. Like there's a good story, but you get that Disney, he's going to die. And then the kid's by himself and has to learn how to
Yeah.
grow
Yep.
into an adult and a hero.
The Incredibles.
The
is like
Incredibles,
that.
same thing.
Dude, The
Yeah.
Incredibles. I was just watching this last night, and in between basketball, of course. And
Balls.
yeah, and like Jesse sat down, and he was like, "Man," he's like, "This is such a good movie. Like this is, like this story is just so incredible. Like, but he was like, this is, man. He's like, they just don't really make the movies like this anymore."
It's incredible. Yeah, and the second one comes out this summer. I can't
Yeah,
wait.
I hope it's not stupid.
I
'Cause it
don't
just-
think it will be.
They've
Well,
taken
so
so much
far-
time to do this.
Brad Bird's involvement.
Yeah. I was
basically
looking
says
over
it's
the
gonna be good.
credentials, and I don't mean stupid Liz and like pee pee poo poo. I just mean like I hope that there's a good story along with with the first one. Like the first one, it started off with this disjointed family, and then they come together with their superpowers, and they have to, in order to beat the enemy, they had to come together and do it together. That was the point of the movie.
Isn't
Now
So
we have
basically,
two.
so basically, what you're saying is it's the Fast and the Furious.
Aw. Dude, that's too soon. I still miss
Despicable
Paul
Me.
Walker.
It's all about family.
Oh, Lord.
Despicable Me.
I love the Despicable Me franchise, and
I have not
it's-
seen one of those movies.
It gets a lot of flack because the Minions went too,
The
they
first
went
one is
overboard
with
the
the
Minions.
first one is with the.
But-
It's a fly.
But the first one
It's weird.
is so great. I
I
love
enjoyed
it.
that. I watched that with
I
Amber.
really loved that one.
all this new stuff I have to watch with Amber because that's all she watches. So
I'll have to loan you my horrifying DVDs from the past.
Dude, I want some of those.
I-
here,
I've
Amber,
got-
let's watch some
I'll-
cartoons.
We should
Yeah.
have an animation night.
Dude,
and I'll
we
bring
did.
my-
What was the one last year? We had Michelle's.
Belladonna of Sadness.
Yeah, Belladonna of
Yeah,
Sadness.
see, I
and
missed
that
all
was-
of the
that was
animation
the
nights
first-
you guys had because I had.
I've never seen that before.
I think you were out of town
I
for
was.
that.
I was out of town, or I would have come.
We did Forbidden Planet.
Yes.
Yeah, the only animation I've ever watched with all of you guys was the Don Hertzfeldt stuff.
Oh my God.
I love
Yeah.
that stuff.
Yes.
I have that on DVD.
Anus is
The-
bleeding.
yeah.
She's bleeding.
fuck?
My
Why is
friend
my
and I,
anus
we want to get the little cotton balls
My
tattooed on
anus
us.
is bleeding.
My spoon is too big.
My spoon is too big.
That's it. I'm done.
I first saw Don Hertzfeldt with Billy's Balloon. That was the first
Oh,
cartoon
that
of his I
movie-
ever saw.
That's so good.
It's so funny.
What was the name of that movie again?
Rejected.
Yeah, they're
You're
rejected
rejected.
cartoons.
Rejected. Yeah.
Oh my! You weren't here when we watched that, Scott.
Oh, I watched those. Those
yeah.
were
God, they're
bizarre.
so
Yeah, I
funny.
was hanging
Everybody
out.
was just laughing their asses off.
Yeah.
I love those. I
They're
went and
so
saw
great.
that actually at the very first time I saw it was Spike and Mike's Sick and Twisted
Yeah,
a long time ago.
that's probably
And
where
I
I,
haven't
saw
been
Billy's
back
Balloon.
yet.
Yeah, I remember seeing those. That was like a few parties ago. We all I
Yeah.
know what you guys are talking
I
about.
love Don Hertzfeldt.
I do too.
All right, fuckers.
Go
We're
easy
cutting this
now.
bitch off. We're cutting it off at the balls.
And see, this is where I could talk.
Congratulations,
Yeah.
MSU. Happy Senior Day.
All right, folks. This was episode 74, Real Crime. Check us out
Thanks
at
for coming-
themoviesleuth.com.
check out the
And thanks for coming out, Dana.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Always
Thank
good
you.
to see you.
I'm always glad to be here. I always have a good time when I do these.
Yeah, we'll do it again.
We'll be back next week and we'll be 75 years old.
Oh my God, we're so old.
We are ancient. So
Washing the dog. Washing the dog.
All right. Enough.
Visit us at www.themoviesleuth.com and find The Movie Sleuth on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and iTunes.